your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell out before you blow up a plane.
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, good to say I dabbled in stand-up. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean.
Welcome back to the Chrissie Mayr podcast. I just spent a week in Los Angeles. So this is my first official episode back home. It's good to be home. It's good to go from one blue state wasteland to another, the old LA to New York, New York to LA trip. Before I bring in our fabulous guest to talk about a very interesting story, I have a couple of stand-up gigs I'd like to promote. We got a great comedy fundraiser coming up in a couple of weeks, Saturday, September 23rd, in Mayapack, New York. Myself, Gino Bisconti, and Anthony Cumia will be performing out there. Just 20 or so tickets left, by the way, for this fundraiser. So really good chance to see the three of us from Compound Media. Then I'll be headlining in Minnesota Saturday, October 21st at the Great River Bowl and Partners Pub. Lila Hart will be featuring, and Nick Rekieta will be he'll either be hosting or doing a guest spot, whatever he wants to do. But I'm in his neighborhood, so why not? Why not invite him along for the fun? Then I'm back on Long Island Friday, October 27th and Saturday, October 28th at the Brokerage out in Belmore. Then I'm headlining in Tampa Sunday, December 3rd at Side Splitters. That's their main club there. Always good to go back to Tampa. Then I'm headlining in San Diego the first weekend in January. That's the 5th and 6th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. We got 3 shows, 1 show Friday, and then a 7:30 and a late show on Saturday. So get tickets at chrissiemayr.com. And as always, if you know of a venue that would have me, that is not politically, I would say, judgmental, tag them on Twitter, tag me. I'll go anywhere. You guys know this. I'll perform wherever. I'll perform in the back of a Jeep and not just high school. All right, friends. This guest today, I had him on back in February. If you'll remember the Eliza Blue drama, I had him on. We talked about the whole Shane Cashman puff piece, and it was very interesting. And now I have him back on to talk about another kind of interesting story, but this one is a little bit more of a murder mystery. And I think it's just so fascinating. More people need to know about it. He is referred to as journalism Jesus. I need to know who gave him the nickname Journalism Jesus. He's a senior editor for Turtle Boy Daily News. He's an award-winning journalist, an investigative journalist of the anti-establishment. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Turtle Boy, aka Aidan Kearney, or maybe I should say Aidan Kearney, aka Turtle Boy.
However you want to call me, it's fine.
Okay, good.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you back. I can't believe it had been so long. This year's flying by.
Yeah, Eliza Blue came back from the dead a little bit. She didn't make much noise, and I guess she's buried. I guess she's done. But I don't know if you saw the Huffington Post. They called me a gonzo journalist last week. So
wow.
Eat your heart out, Shane Cashman. Eat your heart out.
There's more than one gonzo journalist in this game. Why did they call you a gonzo journalist?
I have no idea. I still don't know what that means.
Who gave you the nickname Journalism Jesus?
All the people in the comments with the turtle emojis right now, basically. I mean, they named me that. with this story that we've been doing here with the Karen Reed story, we've been getting incredible traction with it. Just the amount of viewers that we're getting on the website every day, people coming to the live show, because it's going to be the biggest story in the country when the indictments come, and they are coming soon. And once this woman's exonerated, there's a Dateline special coming soon, 2020. Like, Karen Reed's going to be up there with Koberger, like a household name, except for good reasons. Like, she's going to be completely exonerated when this is all said and done, and the bad guys who actually did this are going to end up in prison where they belong.
You seem pretty confident. I wanna go over more of those details, but for those of you who have never heard of this case, so Aidan here has been covering a case involving this woman named Karen Reed, who was essentially, I think she and a bunch of their friends and her boyfriend of 2 years were all out at this party. This all went down in Boston at the beginning of the year, and one thing led to another, and her boyfriend died, and I guess Karen Reed, the idea is that basically Karen Reed is being framed for this murder, and there's a lot of holes and a lot of evidence that is not being seen, that is being withheld, and it's basically looking like these friends murdered this guy, covered it up, and made it look like the girlfriend did it.
That's it in a nutshell right there. Yeah.
Story. It's an absolutely insane story. I hope they
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear how confident you are in that she will be exonerated, because this is something Hollywood would be drooling to make a movie about.
Well, like, but between you and I and everyone watching, they already are. So, there is a documentary that's going to be made about this. Not saying by who, I'm not saying on what streaming service, but Karen Reed's going to be a household name by this time next year. I will guarantee that to everybody watching right now. And you heard it here first. So,
are you from Massachusetts? Like, how did this get on your radar?
So I'm from Worcester. It's about an hour west of Boston, but it's not a big state, and I cover a lot of Boston related topics. And Canton is a town that's just south of Boston, probably like 15 minutes away. And the house behind me was owned by a guy named Brian Albert. He's a decorated Boston police sergeant. He's been on the force for 29 years. He was actually on this show called Boston's Finest. It was like a TV show. It was like cops in Boston, basically. And he's a real hardo. He's like, well connected, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, on the night that John O'Keefe died, Karen Reed went out. John O'Keefe was also a Boston police officer, but he didn't know Brian Albert. And it's a little confusing because they both live in this town. They're both on the same police department. They didn't really know each other. And they went out together and, they were drinking. And then they were invited back to this house by a woman named Jennifer McCabe for like an after party. These are people in their mid 40s and 50s going to like after parties. It's weird. And so Karen Reed didn't want to go. Like, she was weary of it. She's like, we don't really know these people that well, John. This woman, Jen, is inviting us over there. I don't really know her. Your kids hang out together, but we don't really know them. This is kind of weird. So basically, go inside and text me when it's good. Like, and I'll go on my way and we'll know life is fine. So John goes in and I'll come pick you up later. So she drops him off. He goes in, she waits 10 minutes. Nothing happens. And so she leaves. She wakes up the next morning. He's not there. So she starts calling the people that were inside the house saying, have you seen John? And she calls the woman named Jennifer McCabe, and they go out looking for him. And they come back to the house at 6 a.m. and Karen sees his body lying right on that side of the house on like the front lawn, about 10 feet from the curb or so, right on the grass. And she immediately jumps out of the car, tries to save his life, but it's clear he was just about dead at that point. His body was still a little bit warm to the touch, I'm told, but he hadn't been out there that long. He'd probably been out there for like an hour or two at most. And so she allegedly, according to statements, starts saying things like, could I have hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Because she's wondering, how the hell did this happen? I dropped him off here 5 hours ago and now he's right here. And so she's freaking out about it. And they use those statements against her. And they basically say, well, she was saying, did I hit him? Did I hit him? She must have hit him. She must have hit him. She must have done it. And so this was in the news when it first happened last January or early February of 2022. And I saw it and I read about it and I'm like, well, that's really unfortunate. I'd hate to be her. I'd hate to wake up and be like, oof, did I accidentally hit this guy? And a lot of people, that's the way most of us took it. Well, then she got upcharged to murder. And they said that this was done intentionally because she went full like psycho bitch on this on her boyfriend, like, I'm gonna mow you down with the back of my Lexus. Yeah, that's how you kill people, with a 3-point turn. That's how they said that she killed him, by the way. It was literally a 3-point turn.
And everyone knows women can't do 3-point turns.
Not in the snow. So they arrest her based really not on that much evidence. The Canton Police Department search where his body is, right? At 6 a.m. and they find around his body some pieces of glass from like a cocktail glass and 6 droplets of blood. That's it. And he's got a huge laceration in the back of his head. His eyes look like he looks like Mike Tyson knocked him out. And by the way, he has parallel lacerations on exclusively his right arm. And he has no injuries from the chin down, nothing. And this man was allegedly hit and killed by a Lexus going in reverse. He doesn't have a bruise or a broken bone on his body anywhere, just his face and the arm. That's it.
Whoa.
And as it so happens, inside that house lives a dog that has been twice reported to police for biting people. It's like a man-eating German Shepherd. It's probably not neutered.
Yes, German Shepherd. I wonder if it was like a German Shepherd that couldn't make it in like cop school or something.
Well, it's like when you don't neuter these dogs, that's how they'll always have that drive. They'll always be hyper.
They're going to be horny and angry forever.
Yeah. And so they bite shit. It's their natural instinct. And it's like with pit bulls. Like pit bulls are often involved in deadly incidents because the ratio of douchebags to pit bull owners is extremely high. And it's the same way here. Brian Albert is an aggressive douchebag, and so that's how his dog turns out to be, right? And so he's got these marks on him, and anyone looks at these autopsy photos, you're like, no way. You see a picture of her Lexus, right? It doesn't have a dent on it anywhere. There's no scratches. The only thing that's wrong with the car is there is a taillight that is allegedly cracked. And as it would turn out, they have video footage from her, John O'Keefe's house when she went out looking for him at 5 a.m. of her backing into John's car. So she hits John's car. It's clearly where the taillight cracked. She pulls out. You can see it's not all lit. And that's clearly what happened. But why didn't the Canton police find taillight fragments when they searched where his body was? And he was also missing a shoe. And at no point, not once, do the police enter that house and search it. They don't even consider it. The homeowner, Brian Albert, does not come outside the house, even though there are multiple first responders, a hysterical woman, and a dead guy on his front lawn. He just doesn't come out.
Sus.
Yeah, wow. A little bit. Yeah, they don't search the house. And so, like I said, there's no taillight. Well, it becomes a state police investigation after he's officially pronounced dead. And in comes a gentleman by the name of Michael Proctor. He's the detective in charge of this. And Michael Proctor is a close family friend of the Alberts who own this house. And again, Brian Albert is a Boston police sergeant. His brother Kevin is a Canton police detective. His other brother Chris is on the board of selectmen. And so this is a politically connected and police family that lives in that house. And so Michael Proctor is a close family friend of them, and he becomes the lead detective. He doesn't interview any of the people in the house. He doesn't consider any of them suspects, doesn't answer any of their questions, doesn't ask any of them questions about like where they work. Can I look at your phone? Anything like that. Doesn't ask for ring cameras. There's 2 houses across the street that have ring cameras. He didn't ask to look at any of their ring cameras, even though she allegedly backed into them, which they would have had a perfect view of seeing. So the state police take over, and at 5:45, they do a search of the scene. In between that time, a full foot of snow has fallen, and they find what the Canton police did not find. They find 35 pieces of red taillight, right? That the Canton Police Department just completely missed when there was only an inch or 2 of snow on the ground. They also find a size 12 shoe that wasn't on his foot before, and they found it. Somehow they missed a shoe. They got the transparent cocktail glass, but they missed the gigantic shoe and the 35 pieces of red taillight. And so how did this get here? So her lawyers are alleging that the taillight was planted, because this is the strongest evidence, is the taillight. And so Michael Proctor, in his report, Karen Reed at this point went to her parents' home in a town called Dighton. It's about 40 minutes away. And during a blizzard, and she just rode out the blizzard there with her parents. And Michael Proctor shows up there, according to Dighton police records, at 2:30. and has the car towed. The car is completely out of there by 4:15. The search, the state police search, does not take place until 5:45. So that gives him time to have the car and break the taillight. But what time does he say in his police report that the car is towed from Dighton? He says it's towed at 5:30. He intentionally lied and said it was towed at 5:30 when in fact it was towed at 4:15. So that gave him 1 hour and 15 minutes unaccounted for with this vehicle, more than enough time to smash the taillight and plant it at the scene. The district attorney's office has since attempted to blame that on daylight savings. They actually said that in court. Well, the alarm.com, the video footage did not reset for daylight savings. It's like, well, the sun set at 5:00 that day, and it's clearly sunny out. The sun is out at 4:12 in these pictures of the car being towed. So you're just lying to us about that. You're lying to us about that. They're also lying to us about. They've also said that, well, Trooper Proctor, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know the Alberts or the McCabe. He doesn't know any of them. There's pictures of him all over Facebook with these people. His mother, in one post, calls Chris Albert, the Alberts, they're the Proctor's second family. Like, that's how close they were. Like, they are best friends. They've known each other forever. And I'm missing the most incriminating part about this is the 227 Google search. And this is what caught my attention. And this is what brought me to the story. So the woman that invited John over, her name is Jennifer McCabe. She is the sister-in-law of the homeowner, Brian Albert. And she claims, like the other people in the house claim, that John never came inside the house, right? So in her mind, I guess John went home. I guess he just wasn't feeling it. I guess he went home. Well, at 2:27 a.m., they forensically analyzed her phone and found that at 2:27 a.m., Jennifer McCabe Googled how long to die in cold. And then she deleted that search. Why would you Google how long to die in cold if you thought John O'Keefe was at home in bed? And why would you then delete that Google search? She also deletes.
So dumb. I didn't realize you could delete your searches.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's a shiesty one.
I thought if you did, it would only be like for a porn, like your embarrassing porn search or something.
Well, you know who else didn't know that? The Massachusetts State Police. Apparently, they didn't know that. At least that's what they want us to believe, that they didn't know you. Oh, you can do that. Oh crap! Oh,
so the people in the house, believed that the guy who died never even made it into the house, that he just got hit with a car supposedly in the driveway and just never made it in, just died in the driveway.
That's their entire alibi. Not even the driveway, because the driveway is over
outside
here,
the house.
And the body was found over here, which she wouldn't drop him off over there, right? But that is where they saw her, right, parked, waiting. Like, so what the cell phone data shows, right, is that John O'Keefe was ascending and descending stairs, 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24 a.m. Right? How can Karen Reed doesn't have any stairs in her car? So how could he be descending there's no stairs on the lawn. So how could he be descending stairs if he wasn't inside the house? So he was clearly inside the house. And the alibi of everyone who was inside that house is it's really simple. He didn't come in. We didn't see him. Right. So what is alleged by the defense and anyone with common sense, quite frankly, is that when you look at the autopsy photos, John went in that house and he was immediately confronted. They believe he was confronted there was a 17-year-old in the house by the name of Colin Albert. He is Brian's nephew. And Colin Albert,
real douchebag. Every photo of this guy, he's got a middle finger up. He's got a fist in the air, like a real classic douchebag.
We call that the Canton salute. And every picture he's like that. And he was neighbors with John O'Keefe, and John couldn't stand him because he would throw beer cans on his lawn and just kind of thought he was king shit of Canton because he's the captain of the football team. You know, his dad's a selectman, his uncle's a Boston cop. Like, he was untouchable in town, right? The poster child of privilege. And he was on roids too. Like, he was clearly a roided up kid, doesn't like John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe comes in the house. It's very plausible that the two of them had an argument or a fight because John O'Keefe has bruises on his knuckles. And likely that fight went too far when he got hit in the back of the head with something to cause that gash, and he bled out. And at that point, a lot of the people in the house were probably like, oh shit, we have a dead Boston cop in our house. What are we going to do? And the plan became real simple at that point. Just say he didn't come in. We'll just put his body out there. We saw her sitting out there. Let's just leave his body there. And so we believe, based on the data, that this happened while Karen Reed was sitting outside waiting to get that text back from John. That never came. It happened almost immediately. And when she drove away, that is when they started leaving the house. Colin Albert texts or called a friend of his, a 17-year-old friend of his, at 12:33. She didn't pick up, and she called back the next day and said, what'd you want? And he's like, never mind. So some people believe that he was trying to get an alibi or whatever, but the cover up was on immediately to get Colin out of the house. Colin was never even named in any police reports as being inside of that house until somewhat recently. He was never interviewed by police until the FBI showed up at his dorm room in April with the subpoena to testify in front of the federal grand jury. They have hid this kid the entire time. The homeowner, Brian Albert, has since the dog is gone. Nobody knows where the dog is. The dog has disappeared. Everyone wants to know where
the dog can't answer any questions.
The dog's gone, or be tested, right, to see if the DNA matches up with John's arm. The tissue samples from John's arm have disappeared. A lot of things have disappeared in this. He sold the house, the family house that's been in the house for 3 generations. They just sold it.
It's just listed as is. Sorry about the blood stain on the carpet.
Well, they sold it for 50 grand less than the listing value too. Like, they were in a rush to get out of there, and they replaced the basement floor as well for the second time in 4 years. So
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So they're acting as suspicious as possible. But again, none of these people have ever been treated as suspects. The only person that was treated as a suspect was Karen Reed. And they're playing the crazy bitch card and saying that, like, oh, she was so angry, she hated him, and they got in a fight that morning over breakfast and blah, blah. Like, that's the card that they're pulling right now, because Karen Reed is just a way for them to stay out of trouble. They're like, well, we'll just blame it on her. Nobody cares. Like, she can fight this one on her own. And if she's found not guilty, that's fine too, because as long as they don't come after us, we're good. We're good. And we're going to literally get away with murder. And there's no sense of all of us going to jail for a long amount of time. Well, we can just blame it on this woman. Who's this woman? And Karen Reed is a fighter. Luckily, she has resources, and she's extremely intelligent. And she's been able to hire, like, forensic experts to look in their phone and find that 227 Google search. And they find there it is right there. This is the original, I believe.
And this is your video.
Yeah, this is my video. Correct. That's right.
If you guys have the time to watch this, go to Aidan's YouTube page and watch. It's called Framed: Karen Reed versus the Commonwealth, and she's charged with the death of John O'Keefe. This is a 32-minute video, but a very good, concise summation of everything. And I'm just so impressed with how you collected so many details. How much of this was public versus how much did you have to try and dig for? I mean, this just seems like you should work for Dateline or something. I'm very impressed.
A lot of this was in the public court filings filed by officers, but like that right there is me interviewing Jen McCabe and her husband, Matt. And look at the buttons they wear outside of court. They wear Justice for JJ buttons. That's the woman who Googled how long to die in cold at 227. They show up in court and comfort his mother. And so I'm disgusted by her. And so whenever I see her in public now, I went to her kid's lacrosse game. I got kicked out of that. I confronted her there. And I'm like, this woman killed a Boston cop. She Googled how long to die in cold. Can you explain why you Googled that to me, Jennifer? And no other reporter is willing to do this. I'm like, you have the story of the century right in front of you. This woman is going out in public, rubbing the shoulders of the mother whose son is dead because of her involvement in his murder, and no one else is interested in the story. So I've used a lot of public court documents, but I've also done a lot of research on my own, and that includes that's Jennifer McCabe. That's correct. Okay. There she is. And I went to her house. I've knocked on her door a couple times. We had a rolling rally protesting town. We came to her house, and we've made life rather uncomfortable for Jennifer McCabe. But again, all I want to know is why she Googled how long to die in cold at 227. She can't answer that. She has nothing to say about that. And she also deleted between 5 and 9 a.m. all of her phone calls. Like, she deleted like 15 phone calls. She deleted calls at 6:07 and 6:08 to her sister inside the house that her sister answered. And then she
Wow.
deleted those calls. And the sister, of course, didn't come outside. No one came outside. I mean, these are those are the images of this. Like like they want us to believe that Alexis going and doing a 3-point turn did all that damage. Nonsense.
We got
Absolute
bruises
nonsense.
on his hand. There was a big laceration on the back of his head, which some people in the chat I see are saying like looks like maybe he hit his head on a table or metal or something and maybe bled out. And here's where they found him. So nowhere near the driveway.
Nowhere near the driveway. But
And
that's
you
where she
show,
was.
yeah, you show in this video that the across the street neighbor, their ring camera would have absolutely covered this part of the yard here. So
100%.
but mysteriously
They've
there's
never been
no
asked
ring
for it.
footage.
They've never been asked for it. That's the problem, is when you have the lead detective in your pocket, which they do in Michael Proctor, it's not about the cover up doesn't involve just planting evidence. It also involves not pursuing leads and not looking for information. And the biggest piece of information that Michael Proctor didn't look for that I did. So this is actual one piece of reporting I did on my own. I found the plow driver in town. It's a guy by the name of,
Ooh.
yeah. So I found a guy, his name is Lucky Lawfren, and Lucky plows Fairview Road. And I tracked him down and I did an interview with him. And I was surprised he actually took it, because he admitted to me that he went by the house doing his first plow at 2:30 a.m. and John O'Keefe's body was not on that lawn. And I said, but maybe you missed it. Like, would you have seen the body if it was there? He goes, absolutely. I'm trained to look side to side. I've been doing this for 18 years. I'm up
Wow.
high. I have huge lights. If that body was on the lawn, I would have seen it. So now we know that at 2:30, John wasn't there, which means that Karen Reed couldn't have done it. So if Karen
Right.
Reed didn't do it, that means someone in the house did, because he's dead. And that is the view right there from Deputy Chief Tom Kelleher's house. He also lives across the street from there. He has a perfect view of it. He said his ring camera didn't catch it, and they never asked to look at it. They just took his word for it. No, they never asked to look at it. And that's how this case has been handled. I actually went door to door, every house on that street, anyone who had a ring camera, I rang on their doorbell. And I asked them, did you, on the night of January 29th, was your ring camera working? Okay. Yes, it was. Okay. Did the state police ask you to look at it? Because Karen allegedly broke her taillight running over John. So wouldn't the police want to look at your ring camera to see if the taillight was broken? Not one of them. Not one of them. They never spoke with the plow driver. The lead detective never interviewed the plow driver about this. And he tells me there's no body on the front lawn. That's game over. And so, you know what happened 2 days later after I interviewed, this is a month ago, after I interviewed the plow driver? Well, Michael Proctor freaked out and he went and visited Lucky Lawfren. And he held his own interview. And I recently got a hold of that transcript.
Man.
Yeah, I recently did a show on it. We went over the whole transcript, and what else? Lucky also told me this, that around 3 or 3:30, when he went by to do a second pass of the road, there was a Ford Edge parked directly where that body was later found. So there was a Ford Edge sitting right there. And who drives a Ford Edge? Brian Albert drives a Ford Edge, and Colin Albert, they both drive a Ford Edge. And he was insistent there was a Ford Edge sitting there. So I didn't go through because I didn't want to plow them in.
And you probably remember the car that's there that's annoying you, keeping you from doing your job.
Probably a pain in the ass if you're a plow driver, those people that park illegally during winter storms. And he remembered that. And nobody ever interviewed him except for me. I went and found him. Karen Reed's private investigators found him. And you know who else found him? The FBI, because that's what Lucky told me. He said the FBI came and visited me a couple months ago, and they had my GPS from my truck showing me that I had gone by the house. They knew I went and did a plow that road. And so the FBI is investigating, in this case, the district attorney's office and the state police. The FBI doesn't do local murders. They would hand that off to the attorney general, but they would do corruption, because it's very clear at this point that this isn't just your run of the mill murder. This is the district attorney's office and the state police actively covering up this murder to protect this house full of scumbags. Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Jennifer McCabe, people who Google how long to die in cold. And there's poor Chloe right there. Nobody knows where Chloe was a healthy 6-year-old dog. And it's just, who gives away their 6-year-old dog? It's insane.
Wow. Yeah,
And
that's like part of your family.
yeah, the two people on the left there, that's Caitlin Albert, his daughter, and Brian Albert Jr. They both were in the house that night.
Whoa.
The police never interviewed them, either of them. They said Brian Albert said they left at 12:15. Well, they've since been interviewed by the FBI and grand juried. So that means the FBI knows, because they have your phone data. They can get anything. And by the way, that's Karen's car being towed at 4:12 p.m. from Dighton. As you can see, it's still light out. So it is not 5. Proctor said that was towed at 5:30. So he gets that car.
They towed her car while she was at her parents' house.
Yep. Grieving. And she's like, in trauma, and they come and they like, and she has no idea she's actively being framed. They take that car, instead of bringing it to the state police barracks, which was closer by, they brought it back to the Canton Police Department, who no longer has jurisdiction over this case because the state police took over. And why would they do that? Oh, right. Because the Canton Police Department is right near Brian Albert's house. So if you want to break that taillight in the Canton Police Department and bring it over to the crime scene before the state police do their second search at 5:45, that would be the ideal place to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's looking like the asshole kid is probably the one who did it. I mean,
I think he would be the most likely suspect, but it's not my job to find that out. It's the state police's job to find that out. How can you find that out if you don't interview the kid, if you don't even ask him any questions?
Yeah, and this was like all of
look at all his deleted calls. That's Jen McCabe's call log. She called
find out what calls were deleted. How does someone find that out?
The forensic auditor can see that. Nothing's ever deleted. But the state police had her phone for a year, and they claim they missed all this. They didn't see any of this. Of course they saw this.
They took her phone for a year?
They've had her phone for a year and never turned over this information. Karen Reed had to hire her own forensic expert to audit it, and found all this stuff that the state police, led by Michael Proctor, somehow missed. They missed all of the Coco calls at 6:07 and 6:08 that say outgoing answered. One is 9 seconds, one is 7 seconds. That's when they were right outside the house. Coco answered those calls and did not come outside the house. So what most likely happened was Jen basically told them, Karen's here. Don't come outside the house. Stay inside. Click. Boom. And that's it.
Whoa.
So she deletes all these calls to Brian Albert. That's who Uncle Brian A is. You can see the 911 call. She deletes all of those. And why? Who deletes just randomly? I'm just going to delete those ones. Nothing after that. Just the stuff that happens during the time in which John O'Keefe is murdered and found. That's the stuff that gets deleted.
So she was on the line with 911 for 3.5 minutes. Who do you think? That's certainly, is that a real call then?
It's a real call. That's a real call.
On the phone with
the 911 dispatcher. She's on. So the tape has not been publicly released, but there are a lot of people who may know things about that. And
why would you delete the 911 call if you're calling in a panic, trying to be like, oh my God, someone's been hurt?
You know how it is. Like, you just go through and you're just like, you select all. You click check, delete. And it's easier to do it that way.
So maybe I'm like,
I don't delete phones. I'm not a shady person. I'm like, I don't need to. I can't relate to what this is like. And she clearly doesn't either, because she didn't delete any of the ones that came after that. Just the stuff that happened during the most incriminating times. There is mountains of evidence, lie after lie we've seen. Another lie that they've been running with in this whole thing is that there was a human hair found on her car. This is their big piece of their bombshell. We found a human hair and we've tested it and it's human. Well, they actually did the test last month for the first time. The Commonwealth did, and the testing came back and it's not human. It's not only it's not John's. It's not even human. It's from a freaking brush in the back of the car that she used to wipe the snow off because it was a freaking blizzard. And that's what people do in this blizzard. They've wiped their car off and a fabric got on there, and that's the human hair. So they've been lying this entire time. And by the way, they've since amended their reports. So in the original report, remember, it said that Proctor left there at 5, that he arrived there at 4:30 and left at 5:30. The new report says 3:30. So they're intentionally just forget everything I said before, because now we've been exposed as liars, and it's very obvious from what we've put that we are framing this woman. So we're just going to pretend like hopefully you never saw that.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, it's wild. And I doubt this case makes it to trial, simply because I believe that within a couple weeks, I'm hoping, I've been doing this case for 5 months, that the feds will come in and announce some sort of indictment against someone, or announce that they're doing some sort of investigation, and that will be the end of it. Because this is a lynching. That is what's happening right here. This is a state sanctioned lynching of an innocent woman who was never given the chance to properly grieve the loss of her boyfriend, because she was immediately named as the murderer in his death.
Is this true here? Bill saying that they deleted part of the Canton Library camera.
Oh yeah. So at on her way home from Fairview Road to John O'Keefe's house, she would have driven right by the library in the center of town. And if she hit him, then her taillight would be broken, right? And it would be on video, and the police could use that against her. If it's not broken, then the defense can use that in their favor and say, clearly she didn't hit him, the taillight's intact. So the library hands over the footage from the Canton Library to the state police. And the state police then hand that over to the district attorney's office, except there's 2 minutes missing between 12:37 and 12:39, which is the exact time in which Karen Reed would have gone through the intersection where the library is. And that's the only part that's missing. And they want us to think this is normal. Like it's the most obvious and I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist guy. Like I've never been that guy to put on the tinfoil hat and say, oh, the police are all corrupt and they're framing everyone. A child can see what's happening here with the bite marks, with the autopsy photos, with the Canton Library stuff being deleted, with the Google search at 2:27 for how long to die in cold, with all the deleted phone calls, with the fact that the house was never searched. The people inside were never even questioned by police. It's just like, it is the most obvious frame job I've ever seen. And the fact that they're doing this so arrogantly is they're almost saying, what are you going to do about it? Because we have the guns. Like, I don't know if you notice this, but we're the government. We have all the guns. What are you going to do about it, peon? Like, we're going to lynch this woman and there's nothing you can do about it. So we show up to every court date now, hundreds of people. And we stand outside that court, and I'll be there on Friday at 7:15, and I'm going to have my megaphone, and we're going to be protesting outside of that courtroom and filling in all of those rows. And when Karen Reed arrives for court now, she's treated like an empress. Like when she goes in, a year ago, she was alone by herself. Like only her family was there. She looked miserable and sad because they're trying to basically throw her in jail for the rest of her life. Now she knows that she has an army of people behind her who aren't going to let this happen.
That's amazing. She's probably like, how did you guys, you guys probably can't talk to her at all.
Yeah. I mean, she's very good with that with me. Like, as far as like, she's professional, and she knows that like, I can't speak directly to him. So, but I can find things out. I know people who know Karen Reed. I can find things out on my own, and I can do my own digging that way, and they can tell me things if they want to. But so I'm sure her and I, when this is all said and done, we'll have a nice long conversation.
Wow. And so the guy that was killed, that was him. He adopted his sister's kids, and the sister died. Right. The sister and the husband. Yeah,
it's really tragic. About 10 years ago, his sister and her husband both died within 3 months of each other. She had cancer and he had a heart attack. And it was really tragic. And so he adopted them when the boy was 3 and I think the girl was 5 or 6. And so he's the only parent really that they have known. And Karen Reed came into his life about 2 years ago and was a motherly figure. I mean, you're living with a single guy, like he doesn't know how to teach the girl how to be a woman, or do they're going through a major phase in her life where you need a woman's touch around you. And that's what Karen Reed was for this family. She was more than just the boyfriend. She was the motherly figure to them. And now these monsters have told these children that, that woman who came into your life for 2 years, she's actually a bloodthirsty killer who murdered your uncle.
And Jennifer, the kids now,
the grandmother. The grandmother has the kids, and it's really sad, actually. The grandmother and John's surviving brother are both on the side of the prosecution. They have both drank the Kool-Aid. I don't think they ever liked Karen Reed personally, And I've had a conversation with Paul O'Keefe about this, and it's very obvious he knows something is up here. He knows the FBI isn't investigating this for no reason. He knows in his heart of hearts that Karen Read didn't do this. He's just so consumed with hatred for her. Like, he wants it. It's much easier for them to believe that she did this than what happened in the side of the house, which is much more difficult to swallow. I mean, these are the people that have been sitting with you in court, rubbing your shoulders. Jennifer McCabe brought John's niece to Know Your School night a couple months ago, like freshman orientation at Canton High School. They show up to court with the Justice for JJ buttons. It's sadistic what these people are doing. And like, the reason that all these turtle riders are here and everyone's following this story is because we all see it. We're all just like, is this happening? Is this real life? The institutions are actually doing this in front of our own eyes. This is wild.
Do you think they can justify, well, she was only dating him 2 years. It's not that much time. We can just easily frame her. That's just insane to think that.
Well, they're saying that they were going to break up, that she was mad, that he wanted to break up, and she wasn't going to let him do that. So she ran her over with a car because that's what she did. Their evidence of that is that she left a voicemail when she was out looking for him at, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning, saying like, I fucking hate you, John. Like basically, like, she thought he was alive. Like, where the fuck are you? Are you drunk and partying somewhere? Like,
Right.
Where the fuck are you? If you actually killed someone, the last thing you would do is leave an incriminating voicemail being like, I fucking hate you. Like, you'd be like,
Yeah.
no. Oh, I love you so much, John. I miss you. That's what a real psychopath would do. Like,
Yeah,
what Jennifer
because
McCabe did.
real couples are like, where the fuck are you? Are you out? Are you hammered? Like,
Yeah.
did you pass out somewhere? And
Yeah.
apparently, like, a lot of you guys in the chat are following the story that they had known each other for 20 years and they had reconnected, that they
Right.
weren't
So
breaking up.
Yeah. Like, and there's no evidence that they were breaking up. This is just a lie that they're pushing in order to frame this woman and give her, because she would need a motive, obviously, to do this, and that's the motive that they're running with. It makes no sense. The physics of it all are undeniable. It couldn't have possibly done this. If this makes it to trial, it would be the biggest joke ever. Like, it would be must-see TV because it would be so hilariously stupid, which leads me to believe that, like, the district attorney's office doesn't give a shit if this woman's convicted. They don't care. It's fine if she's acquitted. They just want to say that they tried. They're like, well, we tried. And that gives them an excuse not to go after the people that actually did this. Well, we tried. I guess she gets away with murder. Like, that's,
So you think they framed Karen because, let's say, the douchey 18-year-old like started this fight or whatever, something happened, and they're probably like, oh, this kid's about to go to college, or just in general, we don't want this family involved in a murder. And they probably like, we could probably cover it up. It's wild to me that somebody thinks that they could cover up a murder.
They
Like,
did. They
I
did
just
for
think
15 months. Like, I wasn't even paying attention to the story. Yeah. I mean, it's really not that complicated. Like, you got a body in your house. Well, let's just throw him outside and say he never came in.
So what? Okay, tell me what has to be discovered. What evidence has to be given up or looked into again for her to be innocent?
Well, we've already, got most of it, the Google search, all that stuff, but certainly the arm tissue samples, that would help, because there was
From where we
probably
think that the dog
dog.
bit.
There's going to be dog DNA all over his arms. That's disappeared. They've gotten rid of that. They've liked to DNA test his clothing to see if there's dog hair on that, if there's dog DNA on that. That would all exonerate her. I mean, she's already been exonerated, but the question is, like, what evidence would they need to convict the people that
Right.
actually did that? Well, first they need to go in the house and they need to luminol the crap out of that place. Now, Brian Albert, the homeowner, is murder police. Like, this is what he does. He knows how to get a murderer, and he also knows what to clean up. If somebody does murder somebody, he's had a year and a half to thoroughly cleanse that house. You might not
And
find
they sold it,
anything.
right? They sold
And they
it.
sold it. It doesn't belong to them. I went and knocked on their door. I met the homeowner, really nice lady, and she was actually pretty upset because the other realtor, didn't tell her that, oh yeah, this is a murder happened here. And he's like, it's going to be in the news a lot. And so she was actually really upset about that.
You're like,
she
I
wants
should
to
have
help.
gotten a bigger discount for having a current ghost
Yeah.
haunting this house.
See where the house is on the left there. There's a fence, a white fence on the left side of the house. So if you go in the basement, there's a little door that leads out from the basement. That fence opens up over there, and it would just be a straight shot about 20 feet from that fence, or maybe about 50 feet rather from that fence to where the body was found. And that's why the Ford Edge was parked there, to block neighbors
Wow.
from seeing it, right? They weren't going to put a body
So
in the
you
Ford Edge.
think they parked the car in the street, they pulled his body out from that fence, and the car was blocking the body so that he could freeze to death, basically.
Oh, the car was acting as a shield so that the neighbors across the street, so their ring cameras wouldn't see it.
But what
The
about on the
car,
other side? The other side is where the cop lived.
yeah, and so it's just going to block it, and they're going to dump the body right there. And why? What gave them the arrogance to think that they could get away with this? Well, they know that the lead investigator is Michael Proctor, our old buddy. Yeah, Michael Proctor. We got a picture of Michael Proctor of him and Colin when Colin was 7 years old. Colin was the ring bearer in his sister's wedding, in which he was a groomsman. And they're all pictured together. And so they know that, like, oh, Proctor will take care of this. Proctor's not going to bust our balls. They're
Holy
not going to
shit.
come in the house. They're not going to ask us questions. They're not going to search the house. They knew that they had enough connections where they would never be looked into. This is actually, there's Colin in all his glory. This is actually a really easy murder to solve if you just go in the house. John's blood is going to be everywhere. His DNA is going to be everywhere, and you got him. But if you
can't
don't
clean
actually
it all.
investigate,
You can't clean it all up.
No.
I've seen Dexter, okay? I've seen multiple episodes of Dexter, and I don't know. He makes it look pretty easy to clean up a murder.
do they lumen all it? I mean, does he own? I can't say. I didn't
I don't
watch all
know.
of Dexter.
He would just put people in buckets and they would dissolve.
Hmm. Well, they didn't do that. He didn't dump anyone on the front lawn. I mean, that's how
No.
arrogant that they were. Is like, that's Brian Albert, that they can just put the body out there and they'll never be questioned. Brian Albert's name, the homeowner, not only was his house not searched, he wasn't even mentioned in media reports. Actually, one reporter contacted me from a local media outlet, Boston 25 News. And on February 1st, he had tweeted that O'Keefe was found on the lawn of Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert. Well, he gets a phone call about an hour later from Canton Police Chief Ken Berkowitz, a friend of Brian Albert. And he says, can you take the tweet down? Because Brian Albert shouldn't have his name dragged through the mud like this. He's a pillar of the community. And
Wow.
then three days later, Ken Berkowitz drives by the house, and guess what he finds? More taillight. So Ken Berkowitz is like, oh, I found more taillight. They just keep finding, the taillight's everywhere. It's everywhere. The Canton police missed it, but we keep finding it, and more evidence against Karen Reed. Oh, look, fancy our luck with this.
They're just bringing by bags of crushed taillight and spreading them around like.
I mean, it's wild, the arrogance that they think they can get away with this. Again, I'm a guy I've been a back the blue guy. I feel like a schmuck now for all that. I was like the biggest back the blue guy for years. And I have friends who are police officers, but I feel like a schmuck now. It's like, wait a minute, stood up for you guys.
It sucks that you feel that way because it's obviously these individuals and not cops all over
Right.
in general. But I can understand how it makes you go, ugh, like
it
this
is
really
individuals,
corrupt and evil.
but it's also like the institution. It's like they're not stupid. Like every cop I've talked to knows that what happened here. They know she didn't do this, but the institutions itself don't speak up because of this. Like, you don't do that. You don't do that. Like the Boston police still have a Facebook post up from February of 2022 thanking the state police for arresting John O'Keefe's killer. And it's still up there. It's like, what happened.
He died in 23 or in 22?
22.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, January 29th, 2022. She was charged with manslaughter on February 2nd of 2022. And then she was upcharged to murder on June 9th of 2022. And she's been charged with murder since then.
Gosh, I can't imagine what the last year and a half of her life has been like. And I mean, she's lucky that I guess it seems like she has a decent job and can hire good lawyers. But it seems like the whole internet is
had a decent job. She's on leave, so she can't get a salary. She can't drive a car. They took away her license. They took away her car. They still have her car, her Lexus, that she's still forced to make payments on every month on this car. Yeah. And so we've raised almost $200,000 for her, the Free Karen Reed Defense Fund. We're doing another thing on Friday. I'm doing a Q&A session at this drive-in movie theater. We're selling tickets to that. So we're constantly raising money for this woman, and she has an army of people behind her, like millions of people. She is the most loved criminal murder defendant in American history. I'm quite positive. So, like, I'm standing on the courthouse steps being like, yes, free this woman who's being charged with murdering a cop. Yes, free her.
She's also very cute, so that helps.
Oh, she's a smoke. I mean, that doesn't hurt her, although it kind of hurts her with some of the people. A lot of women can be catty, and they look at her and they're just like, I don't like that smile on her face. She looks like a stuck-up bitch. There's a lot of that going around.
She looks just pissed here.
Yeah, I mean, she's confident. Like, that's a woman who is confident in court and knows that, she's winning. Her attorneys are great. The guy sitting down to the right of her, he represented Kevin Spacey in 2019 in a very similar situation. Kevin Spacey was accused of sexual assault on some 19-year-old bartender in Nantucket, Massachusetts. Wow. They later found out Alan Jackson was hired to be Kevin Spacey's attorney, and they found out that he found out by analyzing the victim's mother's phone that they had deleted a number of text messages in which the kid is basically being like, ha, 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 Kevin Spacey, should I fuck with Kevin Spacey? Should I get oh my God, Kevin Spacey wants to hook up with me? Like, it was stuff like that, all deleted. And so that's why she hired him, because he's the cell phone guy. He's the guy that you bring in when somebody has deleted exculpatory evidence on a phone and you need to go find it. You hire Alan Jackson. He's the best in the country.
It reminds me of, is it Pulp Fiction, where this guy Wolf comes in and he's got to clean out all the pieces of head from the car? He's like, my name's Wolf. I solve problems. It's it's great scene.
It's similar to that, except legal. But he's very good at it. When he gets going, the guy standing is David Yannetti. He's her Boston attorney. They have a nice little back and forth, kind of like, I wouldn't say good cop, bad cop, but they have a dynamic in court that's just so effective. And they're going against the system here with a corrupt district attorney's office who's under investigation by the FBI, and a judge, quite frankly, who is allowing who isn't asking any questions, who has denied several motions to get Brian Albert's phone. Like, if they can get Brian Albert's phone, he's going to be texting Michael Proctor on there, asking him to come over. There's going to be all evidence of a conspiracy. He won't give up his phone. If he has nothing to hide, why don't you just give up your phone? Just show us. You have nothing to hide. Let's see it. Wow. But he won't do it. And the judge won't allow it. So she's protecting him too. They filed a motion, and I was involved in this actually, to recuse the judge because, get this, Matt McCabe, John McCabe's brother-in-law, his name is Sean McCabe. He's a moron. One day, Sean McCabe shows up on my Facebook page and starts saying, Turtle Boy, I'm going to call Auntie Bev and we're going to get this fixed. And her name is Beverly Cannoni. And so I messaged him and I said, when you say Auntie Bev, are you talking about, are you saying that you know Judge Cannoni? You're friends with Judge Cannoni? And he said, whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your corpse in? And as it turns out, he lives on a town on Cape Cod, and she has a house on that same town on Cape Cod. And he just happened to know this information. He's threatening to bury my corpse in her front yard. And this was brought up in a motion to recuse. It's actually Alan Jackson stood up there with a big billboard, and it's my conversation. It's me saying on Facebook Messenger, are you talking about Judge Cannoni? Do you really know Judge Cannoni? He says, whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your corpse under? She chose not to recuse herself. She investigated herself and determined that she wasn't impartial. And so she's still the judge on this case. And that's the only reason that this case is still going on, is because the judge won't dismiss it.
I like this comment from Jay. If Karen actually hit him, they would have had Ring camera in Alaska that saw her hit him.
It's so true. Like if there was, come on, you can't kill someone and just have no evidence in this day and age. If she backed into him, there would be hundreds of cameras along the way home of Karen Reed's midnight ride showing with the broken taillight. And they don't have one. They didn't even ask anyone because they know what they're going to find on there. She couldn't have done. Her car would be covered in his blood. Like his injuries would line up with the Lexus. It's just silly that anyone is actually taking this seriously. But as you can see, this is an actual court of law. This is being taken seriously. It's wild.
Do you think if they were to go into the house that's owned by someone new now, they could lift up the redone floors and still be able to find evidence, you think?
They could give it a shot. They could definitely give it a shot. But again, the police would have to do that. The police are the problem in this case. They're not because the lead investigator is Michael Proctor, and he's a close family friend of the Alberts and the McCabe's. Yeah. And you know what else? Like, they're so brazen about that lie. There's a picture of Michael Proctor with Jennifer McCabe's two youngest daughters in 2017. It's posted on Michael Proctor's sister's Facebook page. And it's him in uniform with the two girls in the background. And that has been brought up, obviously, by the defense. And with a straight face, the ADA said in court, those are not Jennifer McCabe's children in that picture. And I'm like,
what?
but they are, but they are, like, they clearly are them. I can show you a million pictures of the other two girls. It's them. I don't know what minute it's on here, but you actually see, like, it's clearly them. And they just, with a straight face, say, nope, it's not them. It's not
so
them.
bold.
And it's, and they're that bold because they know that they can get away with it. They know that no one is going to question them. No one is going to, because they have all the guns. They're in charge. Like, what are you going to do about it?
And if they think they can so easily pull off a murder, what else have they done?
It has come a little bit too easy for them. You know, the fact that this was all done so fast, and it does make you wonder, you know, what else, like, what if Karen Read didn't have, you know, resources? What if she was just like a poor person, you know, that couldn't afford any of this? It makes you wonder, how many people have they done this to? The police, like, they can get away with this. It's that easy for them. And it's just like, wow, maybe I should. And I've chilled out. I mean, I still respect the police because I have a lot of friends who are police officers. But as far as blindly trusting police, I will never blindly trust anyone ever again.
Wow. And here's a board with the evidence of his arm, how it was scratched up. Obviously, but I mean, those don't look like Lexus tire marks. Do you think that's what those are? Obviously,
there's some tread on those tires. Mona Lisa Vito. She'll have to look at those. They still have no explanation for what. Usually, the prosecution has like a theory. They can't even explain those. They've offered, like, did they come from the cocktail glass? Is that what you're saying? Did they come from the taillight? So did he hit his head on the taillight, or did he hit his arms? They have not, and he landed on grass. Like, how do you get a laceration in your head from landing on grass? This is insane. Was he bending over and his head just hit the taillight? Like, can you tell us what your theory is? They don't have a theory. They're just throwing shit against the wall.
If a car hits you and you're like a grown person, that's going to be like a lower body injury, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a lower body blow. That would be your legs. Yeah.
Yep. Broken pelvis, you know, bruises all over your midsection. Like that guy Zarnaev, the speed bump that got did the Boston Marathon. If you have ever looked at his brother ran over his body to get the hell out of there, and his body is just covered in bruises. Like, it's black and blue everywhere. John's body is unscathed. If you Google like German Shepherd bites, it looks exactly like that. Like, it's like every time, it's just so obvious. I mean, the scratch marks are parallel. That looks like claws.
Like, they had the dog help cover up the murder, or maybe there was a fight and the dog.
There's a fight in the dog's going to be protective of the owner. You know, who the new person, like, dogs are loyal to their owners. Brian Albert's the dog's owner. If Brian Albert is in a fight with John O'Keefe, the dog is going to attack John O'Keefe. It's just what it's known to do.
It was the dog's idea.
No, the dog needs to take the stand, but we can't find the dog. We can't find the dog. Everybody wants to know where Chloe is. They did his brother's house, which is across the street from the police station. A week after these accusations were first made in court filings, which was back in October of 2022, her defense team first started making public accusations against the Alberts. A week later, they had an excavator come in their backyard and dig up and fill in the family pool with dirt. And then they just resodded it. It's just like, what? You just decided to get rid of your fully functional pool that you guys use all the time, and just a week after you were accused in court, what the hell's in that pool? I mean, some people think nothing. They've never looked into it. It's just
right.
filled
Somebody
with
in the
dirt.
chat said, "Oh, they maybe threw him in the pool when they were figuring out what to do."
Threw who in the pool?
The body.
Well, they can't throw John's body was on the lawn.
Someone thought maybe they threw it in there first.
No, it's across town. It's a completely different house. So it's another Albert house. There's like 5 Albert houses in this town. They own the town.
Oh,
of Canton.
wow.
At least they did. Now I'm the mayor of Canton. That's what we call it. But because I go to this town all the time. They don't like me. Like the Alberts don't like me, and that's fine. I showed like Chris Albert, the father of Colin, owns a pizza shop that makes a mediocre chicken parm called D&E Pizza. And I've been known from time to time to go in front of D&E Pizza with the sign and stand there for an hour or so and protest, and with the sign that says Colin was inside the house. You know, Chris Albert is covering up a murder, and that's not really good for business for them. And they don't like that. But I go there every time. And Chris Albert one time came outside, he called me. He said, "You're a loser and you're gonna get it." He told me, "You're gonna get it." And his sister-in-law, Jill Daniels, I had her on my show one time. She was lovely. She called me a loser. You're a loser and you're a dickhead and this and that. And she said, "Guess what? Shut the fuck up, turtle boy, turtle douche." These are trashy, low-class individuals that have managed to get a little bit of power.
Do you think the dog is in the pool?
Some people do. I don't think the dog is in the pool. I think the dog is alive somewhere, to be perfectly honest. I think the dog was just given to somebody else in New Hampshire or Vermont, and they never want to see the dog again. I think that's what they did. I don't think they have the heart.
Turtle Boy, you should team up with Dave Portnoy and really hit him where it hurts. Do like a pizza review video.
I mean, I'd love to if Dave's a little bit above my pay grade, but he's talked about me before, but I've been a little critical of him in the past. I call it Huff Stool. Like after
he could redeem himself.
He could, No, I like Dave. I mean, if you're from this area, you grew up with Barstool Sports. It's like what it's the first blog I ever read growing up. It was hilarious. And, but it's gone a different direction, but I still like Dave. But obviously if we get Dave on this gets a lot more coverage immediately.
Everyone thinks the dog is dead.
Most people seem to think the dog is dead. And people are really concerned about the dog. I don't really like the dog. I'm like, why do people like the dog so much? The dog bit John O'Keefe.
People love a dog.
He's a bad dog. Yeah, I guess so.
There's no bad dogs, only bad owners.
Yes, I guess so. That's probably true. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like the is Chloe alive thing is kind of like a distraction because it doesn't really matter. All that matters is if Chloe's DNA is on John. That's what matters. Right. If Chloe's DNA is on John, then Chloe bit John. And that means he's inside the house. There's already enough evidence that he's in the house. There's the freaking Apple health data showing him ascending and descending stairs. And this undeniable data, the prosecution.
Yeah, explain to me the stair thing again.
So between 1221 and 1224, his Apple health data on his phone shows him ascending and descending 3 flights of stairs. That would be impossible to do if he's lying on the ground outside because Karen Reed just killed him. That would be impossible to do if he's inside the car. All right. There's also an eyewitness by the name of Ryan Nagel who pulled up shortly after Karen Reed did. And according to his testimony that he told police, Karen Reed was alone in her car. There was no one inside the car with her. There was also no one outside the car, and the taillight was fully intact. So that means that John had to be in the house because he wasn't in the car. He wasn't outside the car. Got to be in the house. His Apple health data shows him ascending and descending 3 flights of stairs and moving around. So clearly something was happening inside that house. When the prosecution sees this, they're just like, nope.
What? Nope. That's so obvious to me. Yeah, you're obviously not going to be walking upstairs and coming out of a car or anywhere else. I mean, that's
fake news. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. Just like, nope, that's fake. And they don't have an explanation for why it's fake. They're just like, it's fake. It's not real. It's not true. I guess Apple can't be trusted now. Freaking Apple is a company that's fake,
that's apparently. Actually concerning to me because a lot of people are basing their calorie burn off their.
Yeah, it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah,
or how far they travel. Yeah, you would think so. And it's the timestamps of Jen McCabe owns an iPhone. And the data off the iPhone says she Googled this at 2:27. They said nope, she didn't. because she
Wow.
was looking at her kids' basketball. They said that this is their honest answer to that, is that she was looking at her kids' basketball website at that time because
Late at night?
there
What?
was a browser. So basically when you X out of a thing, so that she Googles it, deletes it, and X out of the tab. When that happens, then the most recent tab you have up, most of us have more than one tab up in Safari, that populates. And so indeed, at that time, immediately afterwards, the kid's basketball schedule pops up because she deleted the other tab. And that's how that works. And this is like boomerism in court. Like, you have the ADA up there. Well, she couldn't have done it because she was looking at this at 227. It's like, no,
boy.
moron, you can have more than one Safari tab. And like the judge is a boomer. She doesn't know what any of this means. This is all Chinese to her. She's just like, well, they're saying it is, and you're saying it is. I don't know who to believe. There was supposed to be an evidentiary hearing on May 25th in which the experts came in and we determined who was right or wrong about this. And the prosecution filed a motion to cancel it. They didn't want to have it. They just canceled the hearing, and the judge agreed. And so we never found out. And this has been one cover up after another, and we've just had enough of it.
This is insane. Everything you're saying is more ridiculous than the last. Glama here says her kids' team was not playing for months when Jen did that alleged search.
That's true too. So even their alibis make no sense with any of this. So again, it's playing out in front of our eyes, and it's just so outrageous. And there's a reason that this story, unlike any other story I've done, has gotten so much attention. It's because like we all clearly see what's going on. Like even like with Eliza Blue, like we all knew Eliza Blue was quite clearly full of shit. But what was the frustrating part about that was that Tim Pool was treating her seriously and Shane Cashman was treating her seriously. And it's the same thing here. It's just like, we all know this is bullshit.
Because she was in with that. She was definitely cozy with Shane, definitely like cozy enough to have him come to her house or parents' house and spend a few nights. Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert are cozy with the people who have the power, who have the bigger platform. And when that's the frustrating part about this is the commoner, we all see this for what it is, but the people who actually matter, who have the power and the guns, they're on their side. And it's just maddening. And I remember being so frustrated when the Eliza Blue thing happened, because I'm looking at this and it's like, and I know, and we're all like, what? This woman wasn't sex trafficked. This is obviously made up.
You can't even make observations. You can't even it makes you feel like you're crazy because you're like, I'm looking at this person. You're seeing everything she did. You're seeing all the music videos she did. You're seeing her brag about being in music videos. Like she loves how sexy and great she is. And
my ghetto booty. I'm so glad I haven't heard from her in so long. But it's the same shit. I just can't stand scammers and liars. But at least in her situation, no one died and nobody had to go to jail wrongly for something like that. And people didn't get away with murder. And so this is it's like that, except with more consequences with this story.
Aidan, I think just for you, I'll bring back my favorite sound effect on this podcast.
She was sex trafficked when she made this video, right? Wasn't she? She was actively being trafficked, I believe.
So. Yeah, she made it look fun.
Yeah.
Wow. Right. So they had to get rid of the dog because the dog would prove that he was in the house, right? Because
that's right.
If they let the dog they had to examine the scratch marks, right? That's why they had to get rid of the tissue samples and the dog, because the dog would put him in the house. Whereas, what are they going to do? Take the dog and make footprints in the snow with the dog? Like, what's easier to do?
I know. I'm surprised they didn't try that. But yeah, I guess like everything that could exonerate her has disappeared. The Canton Library tape has disappeared. Ring videos from across the street have disappeared. Everything's gone. And the people that, could exonerate her were never questioned. The plow driver was never questioned. The guy that says that John wasn't in the car, his testimony is just kind of ignored and forgotten about. And by the way, every single person in that house, one thing that they all have in common is they all left eventually, right? And not one of them on their way out noticed that there was a dead body on the lawn. Like that, because
that's how you know it's a great party, when you don't notice a dead body.
Apparently, I guess so. But it's like they're in a tough bind there because they can't say that they'd like to say that there was a body on the lawn, but the next logical question would be, why didn't you call 911 if you saw a dead body?
So the car blocked the body long enough for him to nearly freeze to death, and then that car was put back in the driveway?
No, it just drove out of there. So like the car was used as a shield. Like that's what the theory is. The car was
And the
brought out
car
there.
had to have stayed there for what, an hour or two?
Yeah, not even.
Wow.
Just long enough to allow them to drag the body out, and then they can get the hell out of there. They stick around for a little bit, prevent the plows from coming down the street when that happens, because the plow's not going to come down if you're parked there. And
So they put the body there. So it seems like there's obvious corroboration between someone who heard her say, like, "Did I hit him?" and the people that are deciding to place his body there.
yeah, so the people that heard her say, "Did I hit him?" was Jennifer McCabe. Was the person that Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27. She's the star witness for the prosecution, the woman who Googled how long to die in cold. And so that's why the prosecution is trying to protect her, because she is the star witness in the case against Karen Reed.
Maybe devil's advocate, Aidan. Maybe she's a very thin woman. Maybe she Googled how long does it take to die in the cold because she forgot her jacket, and she's like,
Well, not at 2:27. Not at 2:27. She was at home at 2:27.
Right.
But she actually Googled. So she Googled it again at 6:24 after they found the body.
Right, to try to cover up for it, to make it
Right.
sympathetic Googling.
Yeah, well, that one would make sense. And she thinks wait a minute, if I Google the same thing again, then the other one gets erased, right? Like that'll come up as whatever. Okay, I'm a diabolical genius.
McCabe is the wife of who?
Her husband is Matt McCabe. He's a big goofball. No. The house belongs to Brian Albert. So
Okay.
Jennifer McCabe is the sister of Nicole Albert, who is the wife of Brian Albert. It's all an incestuous town. The goal of every woman in this town is to marry an Albert. And so Jennifer McCabe.
Massachusetts, Boston, this whole area seems just like one big high school.
It is. It's the corruption here is insane. Like the good old. I apologize on behalf of for the rest of the country that all we gave you guys was Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey. Like that was our contribution, and that really says it all. Ted Kennedy. I mean, Ted Kennedy killed a woman in 1969 and then was elected to the Senate 6 times. I mean, so it clearly this isn't the first time something like this has happened. It's not a deal killer. It's not a deal killer if you have the right connections.
Holy cow. I just think this is an insane thing to think that you could pull off.
And they did. I mean, it's a really simple thing. All you got to say is he didn't come in the house, and then you stick, and then nothing happens. Like as long as they don't investigate you, you're good.
And this have a freaking conscience. You know what I mean? Even the people that didn't say drag him out or I don't know, put him in the snow. The people that weren't involved and have remained silent, to me, they're just as bad. Because how can you go to sleep at night, not only knowing what you did to John O'Keefe, but then in the news all the time to see this woman who is innocent, and you're watching her go through this, and her parents are 75 years old and they want to retire, and they have to go to every court hearing and dig into their savings to pay for her legal defense. How can you live with yourself? How do you go to sleep at night? Probably because you're the people that really did it are going, well, better her than us. I'm sure they're just trying to justify it to themselves. Well, do you want your whole life ruined?
Exactly. And they're probably just well, she's kind of a bitch anyway. Like, I'm sure they're coming up with some way to justify this, and that, what, she might not have done it, but she was eventually going to do it. She was a bitch. Like, screw her. She deserves to go to prison. She's a bad person. She's a bad person.
That's so disgusting.
It is
so crazy
and it could happen to any of us. I mean, that's the thing about this is this happened to Karen Reed, but extenuating, what if this happens to somebody like you? What if somebody, powerful kills your girlfriend or your boyfriend or something like that? And they can do this. If they can do this to Karen Reed, they can do this to anyone.
Right, which explains why there's such a large, passionate group of people rallying behind your work and her and supporting her and coming out. And do you ever worry about when you kind of do these protests or come out with your signs, what kind of I mean, you already explained it a little bit, but what kind of backlash are you getting?
It's nothing.
Are any of these people talking to you?
I mean, like I said, they're more scared of me than I am of them. because I'm ruining their life. Like I'm putting a spotlight on this. Nobody knew who these people were 6 months ago, and they were out there. They were going to their kids' soccer games. They were living life like normal, like they were regular on the PTA, all this stuff. And now I start showing up to stuff. I come to your kid's soccer game. I'm like, I make things real awkward for you. And then they stop showing up. And it's like, they used to come to the court and rub John O'Keefe's mother's shoulders, and they don't come anymore. That's over. Like, we're not putting up with this shit anymore. And so, no, they're more scared of me. Jennifer McCabe tried to get a harassment prevention order against me in June. It failed.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the audio is hilarious.
Based on what? You trying to interview her that one time?
Yeah, I tried to interview her. He's interviewing me, and he's calling me a cop killer, and he's asking me, he's just bothering me. And she asked the judge,
and it really bothers me because I am a cop killer, but I don't identify as one.
I know. The judge asks her, well, it is, it's protected speech. What you're telling me, he's asking you questions. He's allowed to ask you questions. And she goes, well, is there anything you can do to maybe get him to stop blogging about me? The judge is like,
blogging.
No, I can't amend the Constitution. Like,
you're too old to say a word like that.
I know. It's like, can you get him to stop blogging about me? And the judge is like, no, sweetheart, I can't. See ya. And it was denied. So her lawyer, actually, Jen McCabe's attorney, he likes to get drunk. He's actually one of the most infamous and high profile defense attorneys in Massachusetts. He likes to drink. And so when he drinks, he shows up on my Facebook page, and he's like 75 years old. And he shows up on my Facebook page and he writes incoherently. And he's like, he called me turd boy, and he said he wanted to dance.
Burn.
Yeah, but he's come around to me now. And about a month or so ago, he messaged me on Facebook, and he goes, I just want to say, I actually respect you a lot, turtle boy. And, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. He goes, you have created and shown Karen Reed's innocence. So here is the attorney for Jennifer McCabe telling me that Karen Reed is innocent, which in turn means that his client's guilty. And it's just wild that this is happening.
He talk to you?
He was drunk. He gets drunk and he messages me. He does this all the time. He'll probably do it again. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I kind of love it.
Facebook is wild. I completely forgot Facebook existed till you just mentioned it. I'm like, oh right,
I love Facebook.
Still on there.
It's the biggest social media platform still, like by far. Like nothing comes close. Oh, yeah.
I feel like Facebook should only be for checking in to see how fat the people you went to high school have become and trying to sell furniture.
It's good for groups. It's good for like groups. Like we have the Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen group. Twitter doesn't have groups. Instagram doesn't have groups, like where people can get together and make posts. Yeah. Spaces sucks.
They do. I know it's hard. It's hard. I can't listen to something and not see a face. We got some questions from the chat. That here we go from Push-Ups. Turtle, what did you think of Lauren De Laguna's take on prosecutorial discretion abuse violating separation of powers? I thought her reasoning was spot on. I don't know if this has to do with the Karen Reed.
I have no idea what that means.
Okay. Maybe Push-Ups meant that for a different stream. Yeah. Glama Suze, thanks for the super chat. Thank you so much for having Turtle Boy on your show and bringing attention to this. We are all so grateful.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And she really feels it seems like she's really following it very closely because she seems to know
all these people are. Yeah.
From 99 T-Bone, how do we get the results of the investigation of the cop hitting the pedestrian?
The cop hitting the pedestrian?
Maybe I started that by accident. Capone, love me some Chrissie time, and her guest is great, smart, and gives facts.
Well, thank you, Capone.
I wonder if he's any relation to Al. Glama Suze again. AI witnesses state that they never saw him enter the house. They never said that they never saw him in the house.
I think they did. I think well, if you said you didn't come in the house, I think that's kind of saying the same thing, but I get what she's saying.
They should just keep questioning these people, it sounds like. Yeah. Steven 7 Pounder, this is Turtle time. Turtle Riders coming out to support. Kid.
That's what we say in Massachusetts. Kid. What's up, kid?
Seems like a weird place.
Yeah, it is.
Did you create the term Turtle Rider, or this is just
so the blog is named after, there's this statue in downtown Worcester of a boy. It's a boy who's riding a turtle, but it looks like he's having sex with it, and it's just it's the funniest statue. So that's my hometown. So I was just like I'm like, we're going to call this blog Turtle Boy. And I've been doing it for 10 years. I quit my job to do this. And so what we call people turtle riders who follow the blog because the boy is riding the turtle and now they are too.
Yeah. Facebook is great when drunk attorneys admit their client is guilty.
It really is.
Oh my
It's wild.
gosh. I hope you're saving all these conversations.
Oh, I have everything. I mean, I'm on a part 141 of our series on this, and like I'm documenting everything. I've gotten several offers from several streaming services to do a documentary on this. Something is in the works. I'm not going to announce it until it's, we start filming, but something big's coming.
This is a good point from Holly that Karen has the only Lexus with teeth and claws.
And barbed wire, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you remember that the kid Tyre Nichols that was killed by the Memphis police like in January, I think it was? His autopsy photos are almost identical to John's. And you look at him, you're like, well, I guess Karen Reed's Lexus did that too. I mean, that's what it looks like, according to the prosecution.
They have to stop making that model of car.
Yeah, apparently it's very dangerous. Watch out. It comes with teeth. Yeah.
It's insane. I don't like to like make jokes about someone's death, but like it's just so ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure John's laughing at this shit too. Like, you got to give me a fucking break. Like, he's probably just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, I died for what? For nothing? You guys are going to frame her? Like, what the hell?
What? To live this lie, keep this lie going, to be part of this cover up, that's got to eat away at you. I mean, that's got to. How is your quality of life if you're directing 100% of your energy? There's not a day that goes by where you're not probably thinking about and stressed about this.
Well, since I started writing, they had a good 15 months there where life was relaxing. They could post on Facebook. They can go to their kids' games. They can do all that. And then I showed up and I start writing about this and I bring an army with me and life starts getting uncomfortable for you. So I'm sure their state of mind right now is very different from where it was a year ago, as well as Karen Reed's. I mean, her state of mind a year ago, I would assume, was very negative and sad and depressing. And now she shows up to court and she's treated like a celebrity coming up the red carpet.
She's like the opposite of Amber Heard. Have you been able to reach out? Have you spoken with anybody in Karen Reed's family or her friends, or maybe are they not allowed to talk to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked to her parents. I talked to her brother.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm allowed to. Oh yeah, they have me sit with them in court. Like, they obviously appreciate what I've been doing, and because I'm doing what the local media won't do. Like, where's the Boston Globe? This is the newspaper from Spotlight that did the child sex abuse scandal with the Catholic Church. Where are they? You have the most the colorful, headline grabbing frame job involving police corruption, which, liberal institutions like the Boston Globe, like, here we have bad police. Remember the police you guys were all protesting against 3 years ago? Yeah, we found them doing something really bad. Maybe you should write about it. Maybe you should do something. And they just don't. And so I think that's why the Reed family appreciates what I'm doing, because no one else was writing about this prior to me.
Do you think they're too afraid to, or they're being paid off by...
I just think journalists are lazy. I just think mainstream media journalists, this new generation of them, they're just taught to, like, oh, how much, is the transgender suicide rate slightly higher in Suffolk County? We did a deep dive into that and found if women of color are actively, why are they making 14 cents less on the dollar? Like, that's what news is in the Boston Globe.
Right. Jeez. Yeah. Someone in the chat, Travel, imagine if Karen was black. They probably wouldn't have. They're like, well, let's just take the hit.
Well, if Karen Reed was black, it would actually benefit her, I think, with this, because BLM would be, BLM would be useful for once.
True.
Like, it's like, where is BLM with this? Where is Antifa? Like, where, like, the police, the guys you guys hate. I guess you don't care when they're doing it to a white woman. I guess that's what it comes down to.
No, we're pretty hated. We're not having it. We're not as bad as white guys, but yeah. And her name is literally Karen, so that
doesn't help. That doesn't help.
Well, is there anything, if anyone's really hearing this story and wants to support? I mean, like, does she have like a fund, or like a way that someone can support, or send her a message or something?
So come on our, I would subscribe to our channel, Turtle Boy Live, and under every show, we have a link. We do shows every Tuesday, and normally Tuesday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. And in the bio for it, boom, link to the Karen Reed Legal Defense Fund. You can donate that way. It's really simple.
Okay, I will put that link in the description,
Excellent.
along with your other handles.
Oh,
This was
can,
so
can
interesting.
can I recommend something? I don't know if it's too late. If you can put Karen Reed in the title of your video, it'll come up on searches more because this is
Oh,
gonna be a
yes,
hot
of
topic.
course. Of course,
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
given. That's,
Some SEO, some SEO.
gotta get that SEO right.
Yeah, you got it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
And
but
prayers to Chloe the dog, wherever she
wherever
is.
you are, Chloe. Hopefully you're a good dog now.
Oh,
But
don't think about the dog. Okay. This was great. Thank you so much, Aidan, for coming on. And anything else, any other videos or any other things coming up that people can check out from you?
yeah, I mean, check us out Friday. We'll be live streaming from the courthouse steps at 7:15 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning.
Woo!
I'll be out there leading the protest, and then we'll be having after court. So all day Friday, I'm gonna have a very busy day.
Okay. Do they have snacks for you there? Like, do you get a lunch break? I guess I've never been to court. I don't know
No,
if they
I mean,
do.
I just run on adrenaline during the day. I take Adderall. I'm good.
Oh, don't take
I'm just
too
kidding.
much.
I got
All
a
right.
script. It's cool. It's
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
This was fun. Thank you to the chat. You guys were very well informed. I'm very impressed with you. And thanks for your comments and questions. And we'll have to follow. I'll have to check back in with you, Aidan, on this as things progress. Because this is just an insane case.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on and giving us the platform to talk about this and tell a whole new audience about what's happening to Karen Reed. So thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next